I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, April the 6th, brought to you in part by the International Brangus Breeders Association. This country is Brangus country. For more information or to find a production sale near you, visit gobrangus.com. Our worst nightmare has arrived, and I know you guys feel like we've been in a nightmare for the last month or 6 weeks, but this coronavirus deal just continues to put people out of business, to kill demand, wipe everything out. And you know, we were very upset early because the meat shelves were being emptied out, and your cattle people weren't seeing any of that uptick in demand. In fact, they saw lower prices while your packers were enjoying sharply higher cutouts. Then in the last week or so, your cutouts have backed off, and your end users, your retail people, aren't buying a whole lot of meat right now. They've really backed off of that. Yet we're not seeing the big shelf filling again. Some places do have every bit of product. Some of them are just spotty. And I've talked to people that are in the know, and they said, you know, those reefers are loaded at the plants, and they can't find truck drivers to get them to where they need to go. It's just all logistics, and people are not showing up to work. You know, and part of it has to do with this stimulus deal, because people are waiting on that $1,200 check. Some people figure they can file unemployment and they get a little bonus on top of that to keep them going, and they think, hey, that's not much less than what I'm making working, so why don't I do that? You know, I'm not picking on those people. A lot of them are probably scared to be out and about every day too, working, but that's why we have to really give credit to those that are braving it, and they're going out there and working every day. And that's how some of your packing plants are actually giving them bonuses. Tyson has announced that they're going to put up $60 million for bonuses for frontline workers, but we're having trouble keeping these plants open now. And that's the worst nightmare, because we knew from the beginning if we start shutting plants down, and you know, USDA come out there and said they were essential, and tried to coax them to keep those plants open. Well, they didn't have to coax them. They're making plenty of money. They want to keep them open too. But now we've got workers that are not showing up to work. They're calling in sick. They're not having enough people on the line to process the meat. The fabricating room's the same way. And every morning's just a crapshoot, because they don't know whether people are going to show up for work or not. And I've always said, having somebody that's not dependable is worse than having nobody, because if you don't have anybody, you know where you're at. But if you've got somebody that's not dependable, then every morning you're just sitting and waiting to see whether they're going to show up or not. And that really is hard to run a business when they're doing that. But a lot of your plants are scaling back. Several of your big major plants are going to run just one shift, so they're going to be processing about half as many cattle. Boy, we can't stand that very long, guys. But you know, we're having problems getting employees at some of your major plants. Tyson, Finney County, having problems getting people there. Jocelyn, Illinois is the same way for Tyson. JBS Greeley, JBS Grand Island has several positive coronavirus people there. Not sure how many people are going to be showing up to those. All your packing plants are having a hard time with that. Your Iowa Premium Tama plant's going to be dark all week. We just can't stand this. You know, where's the cattle going to go? You can hold calves, you can hold yearlings, you can hold your finished cattle for a while, but eventually you've got to sell those cattle or exacerbate your problem with heavier weight carcasses and the like. But I tell you what, this is the worst deal yet that we've got into. And the board's been down the limit for several days, and we just don't know where we're at. This coronavirus deal, if we don't get this country moving again, it's going to break everybody. It's going to break exponentially more people than get sick or die. It's just terrible. I mean, and it's not just the beef and cattle business. You know, you see dumping milk, and without your cafeterias running for your school lunch for all the kids. There's not that many people that eat milk, but kids do drink milk when they eat in a cafeteria. They're dumping milk everywhere. It's killing the dairy industry. I've seen where the seafood industry is struggling. Food service is struggling. A lot of your restaurant chains are struggling. I saw where Logan Roadhouses they're going to stay closed indefinitely. They're not planning on opening back up. This deal is tearing this country apart. And I'm not telling you guys anything that you don't know, but those workers not showing up, you've got a percentage of them that are scared or they're already sick to show up, and those guys work shoulder to shoulder to get that work done when they're boning those carcasses out and doing all the processing and fabricating. Some of it's due to the unions. They're using leverage to negotiate, and they know that it's high time that they can get some stuff done right now. And your third is like I said, your stimulus checks will be coming out soon, and a lot of your workers know that. They cannot show up, get fired, file unemployment, or a lot of times, especially with this new small business SBA deal, they're going to keep them on. They're not going to fire them even if they don't show up, because they're going to need those workers when they come back. Well, if they can stay home and make money, why would they show up? And in fact, it's kind of ironic. If you watch these workers, and so many of them are foreign, and many of them don't speak English, they have figured out a way to pull their leverage on the packers on their end a lot better than your feedlot guys have. They know how bad they need them. They know what they can get. They know where they're at. They're all a member of a group there that kind of negotiates in their favor, and maybe your cattle sellers can take some lessons from these plant workers on whether they show up or not, and see what it ends up. They're probably going to end up making more money in the long run, and for sure your packers can afford it. I mean, the kind of money they're making, but tell you what, they're playing hardball with them right now. But with all these plants being closed, and then we got that plant closed, that JBS plant back there in Pennsylvania. Many of your sale barns, especially in the upper Midwest and over in the Eastern Corn Belt and working east, many of them really don't have a choice. They're going to be closed for the next couple of weeks. And I don't think that's a bad idea for those sale barns to be closed a couple of weeks. Not your big high volume feeder cattle sales, but I'm talking about those sales back there where they sell a lot of cows and bulls, and they sell some fat cattle, and they sell some fat Holsteins, and then they get a scattering of feeder cattle. You get back east, and I know you guys, some of you in the mid part of the country don't know it, but you get back east, they still sell veal calves. They'll have a handful of hogs. They'll have slaughtered sheep and goats, and it's just a kind of a hodgepodge, a barnyard full of stock to run through the sale barn. And when their buyers have called them and told them that they're not going to be there the next 2 weeks, what choice do they have? And so they're going to be closed down. I don't think it's a bad idea for some of these sale barns to close down for 2 weeks. We're getting so cheap on some of these cattle now. We're bound to be getting to the intrinsic value somewhere. We're closer to that than we are where the cattle ought to be bringing. So there's more top side than there is bottom, but it's going to be cheaper again this week, and I wouldn't be surprised if the board's not down the limit again with all these plant closures and everything that's going on. But I know everybody's frustrated, everybody's sick of this deal, everybody's depressed, and they're mad, and they want to get something done with the way we do business here in the cattle and the beef business. And I have seen and been invited that RCAF USA, the cattlemen's group there, they're going to have a Facebook Live meeting at 7 o'clock Mountain Time here on Monday night. And I think for you guys that want to tune in there, I just wanted to let you know what's going on. It's going to be probably an interesting thing to watch. There's going to be some tempers flaring probably. There's going to be people asking questions, and then they're going to address those questions. And And you know how those deals kind of go. I doubt they come up with many answers, but at least you can kind of vent a little bit with some of your brothers. But don't forget that Facebook Live meeting, 7 o'clock Mountain Time. That'd be 8 o'clock Central on Facebook with R-CALF USA. So what else is going on? You know, I talked that it's not the cattle business, beef business. It's not just dairy. It's not just your seafood. Everything is going in the shitter. Your oil business is going to nothing. We've got some of these states that are selling gas so cheap you can't believe it. Now, I'm not seeing it right here in the Amarillo area, but I've got some friends over in Oklahoma that are buying gas at the pumps for under $1 a gallon. They're buying diesel for under $1.50 a gallon. I talked to my buddy Keith Williams, lives over by Tulsa, and I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, I'm sitting in line here. I'm going to fill my pickup up and some of these tanks with some of this $1.48 diesel." And I said, "Well, you mean $2.48? That's not that cheap. You know, I can get it for $2.30, $2.35. He said, "No, $1.48 diesel." And that not farm diesel, regular diesel. Unbelievable. But how are your ethanol plants going to stay in business if they're selling fuel that cheap? They're probably going to end up shutting down. Then we're not going to have your distiller's product that comes out of those ethanol plants, and then that's going to change everybody's ration. This thing is just endless how bad it's affecting your cattle producers, your cattle feeders. Let's look at the board there for last week, your April live cattle contract. Monday was down $1.75. Tuesday was up $2.62. They just like to play with it. But Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday all down the extended $4.50 limit there on April live cattle futures, with them ending the week at 88.32, down $12.63. Unbelievable. June ended the week at $80.85. It was under 80 there for a while. But, you know, a lot of people think we've got some bottom side support there. That was before they started shutting the plants down. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised to see it go cheaper than that this week, and I'm definitely not rooting for it. But 80.85 to end the week on June contracts, down $8.57. April feeder cattle, Monday was down 55, Tuesday up $1.87, Wednesday down to $4.50 extended limit. Thursday was extended to $6.75. It was down to full $6.75. Friday could have went down big again, but only down $2.42. So probably some shorts taking some profits there late in the week, but it didn't continue to lock and crater down the limit on Friday, but just down pretty good. But April feeder cattle, 108.25 based on an 800-pound steer. That's down $12.35. May feeder cattle ended the week at 108.10, down $12.82. Your fat cattle sales through Thursday, they'd sold only 24,500 head and not much more on Friday. But evidently they're not going to need that many cattle, and they must have known they were going to be scaling way back, and a lot of them just handling half as many cattle. That won't take care of the contract and cattle that they've already promised to take. But mostly your live cash market was $8 lower last week, mostly $1.12. Your dress market was mostly $10 lower, 175 to 180. By Thursday, we had some more cheaper sales than that, but your market was not established there. But in Texas, we had some 105 FOB there, so that, you know, that's a lot lower, guys. Nebraska had some 114 delivered there late in the week, and it doesn't cost that kind of money to deliver cattle, but I'm telling you what, it's a lot lower. So the last sales we've seen on live fat cattle is 105, and that's FOB in the Southern Plains. But we established our market on the FOB market. The last established price was 112, but the last sales we saw was 105. Nebraska on Friday had another 600 head dressed from 165 to 168. So that spot's $20 lower. That wasn't established either, but 600 head. So that 165 would be $20 lower than the previous week. Unbelievable. But that wasn't established. Your last established market was 175 to 180. Box beef cutout values, they were sharply lower. Choice cuts, your weighted average for the week, 238.47, down 16.60. That's the weighted average of last week's sales against the weighted average from the previous week's sales. Select cuts, your weighted average for last week, 226.04, down 17.61. Choice select spread on the weighted average was 12.43 with just over 600 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings, and that come up to be closer to average than we thought. It was very light early in the week. But your slaughter for last week, 626,000. That was 50,000 less than the previous week. It's probably going to be that much or more lower than last week as we start into them this week with all the plants scaling back. But that 626,000 was just 1,000 less than the same week a year ago. So not terrible when you compare it there. Let's look at your feeder cattle markets, your real-time index on DB auction late in the week, based on an 800-pound steer, up through your Saturday sales where they had them, 120.83, down 11 cents compared to Friday. Your steer tracker ended the week at was 116.52. That's your last 25 bunches of index steers, so 116.52. So you look at your cash feeder cattle market, your feeders were $15 to $25 lower. Now these Monday sales haven't seen that yet, so they've got to catch up. They're going to be sharply lower too, because they've got to catch up with the Thursday sales that were $15 to $25 lower. So your early week sales will be down big, but that won't be more lost than what I just told you. But it's tough. Your calves down almost that much, $12 to $15 lower. And even though the grass is getting green and we've had kind of an early spring and guys are still needing cattle to turn out, they don't know where to buy them. You know, the cattle that were sold the last 2 weeks that were bought as calves and backgrounded, a lot of them didn't bring back first cost. So yeah, guys are scared to death to delve off into them, even though they're sharply lower and they look like a bargain. You know, they're a little bit leery to get in there and start buying them, even though there's a lot of cheap grazing around. This deal is going to get better at some point. We're going to get through it, guys. But let's look at some of your best quotes late in the week on Friday. Torrington, Wyoming, Torrington livestock markets. 104 head of 695-pound steer calves bring 133.50. Sure, nothing wrong with that. Winter livestock auction in Winter, South Dakota. 66 head of big steers weighed 954 at $1.10. That's a good market on those. I know you guys, skipped a breath when I gave you $1.10 on middle 9 weights, but that's a pretty good market. But the best quote I saw on feeder steers end of the week last week was Bloomington Livestock Exchange, Bloomington, Wisconsin, 55 head, 799 or 800-pound steers at $125. And that's your feeder flash for Monday.